All right. Hello, everybody. Thanks for coming out tonight. Appreciate you being here. And yeah, let's get this show on the road. We're gonna have some fun. We're gonna build some stuff together. So if you have Figma, open it up. If you don't have Figma, go ahead and set yourself up with an account if you want to. No pressure. All right. So welcome, everybody. We are going to be looking at building with a design system. We're going to be doing this all in Figma, and we're going to be using the Shopify Polaris design system. The principles we'll be talking about here will apply across any design system you want. I like Shopify's system, so we're going to use it. All right, let's get started. So what we're going to be doing today, we'll talk about what we'll make. We'll talk about design systems versus style guides. We'll talk through downloading your assets, installing your fonts. And then the main chunk of what we're going to be doing today is going to be building something. So a little bit different than last week, which was mostly lecture. This time is going to be actually hands-on building. And then we'll set up some next steps. So style guide versus design system. An easy way to think about this is squares and rectangles. Style guide is often part of a design system. It's often found in a design system. Sometimes people use the words interchangeably, which is the thing that happens, but there are some subtle differences. So I'm going to show you guys. This is a style guide I created for a product that I was working on. It's got some very basics, just colors and what they're used for. We've got our text sizes and styles, and then an image of like what a screen might look like. And then I also included some buttons, primary and secondary button. The point of a style guide is to give you an at a glance visual idea of like, here's how we make the thing. When you start looking at design system, it goes deeper than that. You're looking at the grid, the voice and tone, really about how to use the style guide components and things, or, you know, the style guide guidelines are part of the visual stuff, but then a design system is also talking about how to use things, how to implement things, how to think about making things so they feel like a cohesive product from page to page, from product to product within an entire ecosystem. It also might include things like do's and don'ts and components and design tokens that are really helpful for your developers as you move forward. So style guide and design system, super visual, and then super visual and also some of the thinking behind it and some more aspects of it that go into greater detail. So rectangle, square. I'm going to give you a little bit of context here, just to kind of show you what we're talking about. The screen we're going to be building today, we're going to be making this slightly different. We're going to change a few things, but we've got this screen, we've got this, we've got this. That's all the same content with some slight changes, but it's the same content in 3 different styles. Completely different feels, completely different uses maybe, but it's all the same material. So what we're looking at here, we've got a Google material design down at the bottom, we've got IBM Carbon in the middle and Shopify Polaris up top. And you can see that it's a different feel, but the same functions and the same kinds of things. What's the same is that in each row within each design system, all the screens feel cohesive, right? So all the Carbon ones feel like Carbon. All the Polaris ones feel like Polaris. So that's a little bit of a helpful way to think about the uses of a design system, is to make all the different parts of it feel like it's part of one product, which is really what you want for your users, so that they feel like they're in your world and then they go to another thing. So yeah, what we're going to build today, we're going to build this screen here. And you guys can totally follow along while we do this, and I'll talk you through my process and my thinking as I'm building, and you're totally welcome to build along with me. In fact, that is very much encouraged. All right. So in order to get to that, we're going to start downloading the assets. I've already done them on mine, but I'm going to show you how to do that. Anytime somebody says, you know, we're going to build with this design system, first thing I do, just Google it. Go to your browser and just say, okay, we're going to be working in Shopify, so We'll take Shopify design system. I'm working in Figma, so I'll say Shopify design system Figma, or Polaris if I know the name of it. Most design systems have a different name. So we'll just go right up into our browser, Shopify. We can go even more generic, design system, Figma, boom. We've got the list of resources right here. We can go straight to the source. There's polaris.shopify.com. Bring it to the resource list, Figma, boom, Figma UI kit, clicking on it. And here we go, brings you right to their page. So this is their community page in Figma, and they've got components list, icons, shadows, typography, color. If you open up any of these, you see a duplicate button. Figma makes it really, really easy. Just go ahead and click duplicate and it'll open it up in your Figma world, right? Takes a second, there it is. And now we've got all these different parts from Polaris. Just to show you here, if you go back to your files, this is obviously the web version, and this is this component that we've just downloaded. If I go to Figma, this is now the desktop app. If I Command O for open, I will go to, where are my files? Come back. Boom. Where are you? Hello. Uh-oh. Hey, come back. There it is. All right. So yeah, you can see that this Polaris for admin components is already preloaded in there. And because everything's attached to the web for Figma, your desktop app is going to be connecting to that. Obviously, if you're not currently connected to the internet, it's not going to sync that. But once you connect, it'll automatically update, which is pretty sweet. All right, so now we're back in the app world. Desktop app is what I like to use for different reasons, but once we have that, Shopify Polaris Figma, we've got our resources. If we go into the typography section, boom, we're in the typography section. We can see there's large screen and small screen. We're going to be mostly working in a mobile screen here, so we're going to look at small screen. But you can see down the road, SF Pro display, SF Pro text. If you're working on a Mac computer, you probably already have that installed. If you don't, that's okay. It's available for free from Apple, developer.apple.com/fonts. And you can download that from there for free, install it. If you're working in the desktop app version of Figma, it'll just access your local fonts. That's super easy. If you're working on the web version of Figma, it doesn't have access to your local fonts unless you install an extension from them, which is also free. So figma.com/downloads. If you go to Figma downloads, you'll see font installers for Mac OS and Windows. They make it clear, desktop app, you don't need to use that. But what that does, that just allows it to look at your local fonts on your machine and use those in your desktop, in your browser version of Figma. Very easy to use, super great. So once you've got your fonts installed, you've got your design system components, we can start building. A couple of things before we get there. I would just recommend, this is absolutely not a rule in any way. It's just something to help organize your files as you're going, to build from the bottom of the screen towards the top of the screen. We're going to do that today. And the reason that we do that is just a time saving thing. It doesn't affect the design, how it looks in the end, but it'll help you with your layers and organization. Every time you add a new layer, it puts it above it in your layers panel here to the left. So if you say start at the top and build down, your layers panel on the left and your actual visual layers on the page are going to be inverted. So if you start at the bottom and build towards the top, then your layer list and your actual physical screen will match each other, which is helpful. So one more thing that I would not caution you, but just, it's helpful. Let's look at this. I would definitely recommend organizing your layers. So we click on this version here. We're looking at this frame is Shopify 02. If I want to go in here and edit something, let's say Google Experience Designer, what do I click on here on the left? I could scroll and find it, but just looking at it, assets row, group, they all look the same. How do I know what to click on? As I scroll through, they're all out of order. It's a mess. And sometimes when you're going fast and building things, it gets that way, and that's okay. But if you then take the time to organize it, or keep it organized as you go, then it makes things a lot easier. Now, this one is called Your Matches Collapsed. So if we have all of our different screens, and I want to click on this one, I'm just looking in the layer list, Your Matches Collapsed. Okay, cool. So now we've got all our matches and none of them are opened up. So that's this screen collapsed. They're all, all these drawers are collapsed. So if I go into my layer menu, now I can see, oh, I want to edit that Google thing. So I click on Google. It's already labeled because I went in and relabeled it. It takes a second, but if you're handing your designs off to somebody else, or if you're working collaboratively with somebody else in your Figma file, having your layers organized is really helpful. Or if you're going to come back to it months or years later, really helpful. So like this header Atlassian thing, you got your header, you got your Atlassian. If you look at that, it's all organized. This is the header, this is my content. So I would definitely recommend organizing your layers just as a rule of thumb, especially if you're starting out. You might as well get in that habit now. Just down the road, it's going to help you. It's going to help all the designers that you work with. So good rule of thumb, helpful thing to get in the habit of doing. Cool. So what are we building? We are building this, this image here today. We're going to look at how to build this. We're going to build these things here. Very simple screen, but what we're going to do, we're going to build that all with components. So let's get started. This is our build space. First thing we do.
Question from the audience real quick.
Sure, yeah.
What was so someone asked, what was the Polaris Shopify again? Or used for again?
So Polaris is Shopify's design system. That's just, Polaris is just the name of it. If you're looking for the link itself, it's polaris.shopify.com, I believe. Here you go. It's polaris.shopify.com/resources. I searched the word design system instead of Polaris just to show that you can search for the design system without knowing its name. But you could also search Shopify Polaris Figma. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think that's good.
I hope so. Yeah, it's just the name of it. Different design systems have different names. IBM has a design system called Carbon. Google has a design system called Material Design. Apple's, I think, is called Human Computer Interaction. There's different names for different things. Yeah, this one just happens to be called Polaris. So first step in the build is super low tech. Post-it note, Sharpie. It's super helpful to think about what you're going to build before you build it. So we know we're building for a mobile screen. We know we want a nav bar at the bottom. We know we're going to have a search bar at the top, maybe with a hamburger menu and like a user, their little avatar at the top, some text. We want an open button. Boom, boom, boom. Text to show it. Great. Now my first sketch is done. You see that took like 10 seconds. Very, very lo-fi, just to give our brains an idea of what we're making before we get started. It doesn't have to look great. It doesn't have to look fancy. A lot of times if you're looking on Dribble at stuff, you're just going to see the finished product. So I on purpose want to show you guys the messy process before we get there, because it starts with an idea. So that's where we want to start. Knowing that, the next step is let's get started with a really simple wireframe just to have a little bit more fidelity and to have a picture of it right here. So I'm going to hit A for artboard or F for frame. They get you to the same thing. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to choose a phone. Today, I'm going to use the Pixel 2. You can use any shape that you want. So let's build it. Let's say very roughly, whoop, that's a text box. Whoop, give me rectangle, R for rectangle. And once we've got our rectangle, we're going to drop it down there. Let's say the next one, we want one of the responses here. So, oh man, I didn't tell you guys like the idea of what this app is for. So we're looking at a pretend, obviously, but an app where you're working with a recruiter and they are feeding you different leads for different jobs. They've sent you into your inbox a bunch of different jobs that you would be a match for, and then you can open up those and take a look at them. So that's the overall idea. So we're gonna make that inbox that you haven't clicked on anything yet. So that's the idea here. Then I'm gonna take some rectangles. Let's say there's some text. Let's hit Option, drag this down, holding Shift to make sure they stay aligned. I'm gonna do that again. Option, click, and then Shift to drag. Gonna move this out a little bit, move this out a little bit, and then take both of these and skinny them up. Representing text. Cool. And then I maybe want a little button here. I'm going to take this rounded corner here from the design panel, round it all the way out, and that's just going to show a button and a label and some text. So we're going to take all of these, Command G for group. Now this is acting as one object, Command D for duplicate. I'm going to move that up to the top here just to link it up to the next one. And now that I've moved it, I can Command D for duplicate all the way up the screen. Right, now we've got all these. We've got a little bit of room for like a system bar. Let's start here. We're going to cover this up just to represent that it's scrolling. Boom. And let's make a search bar. And we'll make that white. There we go. Rectangle. One. And when I'm actually building the product itself, I would want to make these way more careful and paying attention to like spacing and grids and things, but these are not, this is not going to be a wireframe that will go in front of people and get tested for now. Although in your design process, maybe definitely I'd recommend doing that. And then we'll make a oval, boom, like this. There we go. Drop that right in there. Cool. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Group those. And then we got our system bar up top. Boom, 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 boom. And we'll make that white. Actually, let's not. Let's make that a little bit gray. Zoom in here. We'll make holding Shift to make that a perfectly regular circle. So I hit O to go to oval, hold Shift to make that a circle, taking R to go to rectangle, holding Shift to make that a square. And then we're going to go up to the Shape tab and choose a triangle. And holding Shift to make that an equilateral triangle. And just make that a little bit bigger. Now, if I hold Option and Shift, that's going to open this object up from the center and in an even way. If I don't hold Option, it's going to go in whatever direction that I'm pulling it. But if I hold Option, it's scaling it from the center. Pretty fun trick here. 1, 2, 3, and then I'm going to go up to this design panel in the top, distribute horizontal. Great. Cool. So now we've got an idea of what we're making here. We've got our tab navigation down at the bottom. We've got all our options here with an expand button. We've got a search bar and our system thing up top. That took what, 10 minutes, and we've got ourselves a plan of how we're going to build this. Super cool, right?
Question. Someone asked, did you use your knowledge of the design system to inform this wireframe?
I did a little bit, especially for this top section. If I was doing a full-on design project where I'm doing research and all that stuff, which 100% I recommend, I would figure out what's the best way to build this and have a plan before I come into this. Then I would kind of know, okay, I'm going to want to have a bunch of menu options. So I need a way to get to that menu. I'm going to have like a profile page. So I need a way to go edit that profile. I need to be able to search and filter. So I need a search bar. The way I structured this top bar here, I did it that way because I know that Polaris is like that. If I was just going to make something up on my own, I would probably have them swapped kind of like that. right? Because I would usually put the profile up top and have the menu bar over here. But so yes, short answer is yes, I did use my knowledge of the design system to make these things, but also kind of I didn't. I want a way to open this, and I want the title and a little bit of text. So yes and no. I know it's kind of a cop out of an answer there, but I hope that answers your question. Cool. Wireframe, and we'll call this FigMax build. All right, you guys ready to get started here? So the first thing, this is where the design system is really going to become important in terms of spacing and stuff. So this is not spaced. You saw like I didn't measure anything. I just made a bunch of shapes. But in order to start making things here with the actual high fidelity page or mid fidelity page, I'm going to want to go back to Shopify's design system. So we're going to go to Polaris.shopify.com. And that's their main page for their design system. You can also very easily just Shopify design system, search it in your browser, and you'll be able to find it here, Shopify Polaris. I'm going to go to the design panel. Most places will have like a design panel and components. Some places will have other things like these foundations and content. The components is a lot of time going to be for your developer side, super helpful. But not what we're going to be looking at today. So we're going to be in the design side, looking here, spacing. So when I look at this spacing page, I'm looking for some really, really basic information. How am I going to be organizing my spacing, right? So I see principles, create visual rhythm, precise but flexible. I'm going faster here. I recommend reading through this stuff. It's going to give you a lot of really helpful background information, but I'm not going to spend time reading this while we're teaching you guys something in an hour. But what I do see here is 4 pixels, 8 pixels, 12, 16, 20, 20, 20, 20. These are all base 4, right? That's the information I was looking for. What's my grid spacing? So then I go back to here to Figma, follow along with this one. This one's important. So you go up to your Figma menu, you go to your preferences here, and then at the bottom of that preference, you got nudge amount. The default nudge amount here, small nudge is 1 pixel, big nudge is 10. But we just looked at that and it wasn't a base 10, it wasn't 1, it was a base 4. So we're gonna have small nudge is gonna be 4. We're gonna set big nudge to 16. You can choose whatever you want, 20, whatever, but I'm gonna choose 16 here. And then done. So now if I create a rectangle, I drop it to the left side of the frame, I hold shift to go to big nudge, or nothing to go to small nudge, and using my arrow keys, if I go to the right, there's 4 pixels, there's 8 pixels, 12, and 16, right? But if I line it up to this left side, you'll see the guidelines come up. You hit shift to go to big nudge, boom, now we're 16 in from one side. We're gonna option click to go over here and shift, and now it's 16 from both sides, and we've got our gutter. Very easy to do that. Shift click and delete. Cool. So now we're going to build our navigation at the bottom. You usually want your touch targets to be at least 44 by 44 pixels. I'm going to leave a little bit of room on either side. I'm going to make them bigger than that. So we're going to start with building this bottom navigation. And how tall do we want it to be, right? Do we want it to be really small, 9, 13, 16 pixels? No, that's way too small, right? You can't click on anything of that size. So I'm going to bring this up to, find a size that looks okay. So just looking visually on this left side, that looks okay, right? So we're going to pick something that's close to it, but is also a base 4. So 72 is what I'm choosing here. That's going to be the height of my tab navigation at the bottom. So let's build that. The next thing we're going to do is go into Polaris icons. Boom, right here. Polaris has a bunch of icons. They've got their major icons, their minor icons. There's so many of them. The four things we're going to want, again, when you're building your app, your user research team and your whole design process is going to tell you what you want to build. For now, we're going to grab the calendar, messaging. You're going to be able to talk to your recruiter. We're going to have a favorites tab and like a statistics panel. So we're going to grab our calendar and literally just copy and paste. So Command C for copy. And I'm just going to click it here, paste right there. We're going to go grab another one. Let's find a messaging. I'm looking for messaging, but I see the favorites one first. So I'm going to grab that. I'm going to put it over here. Going back to icons, still looking for that messaging one. Here it is. Click Command C for copy. Right click, paste here, or Command V. But if you don't select anywhere and just Command V, it's going to go ish to the middle of your screen, which can get confusing. I don't want to have to like copy it and then go look for it. So I will use the paste here function. So I know exactly where it is, just as a time saving thing. And then stick to statistics here, copy that and paste that. Now we're going to take all four of these. These are your alignments. So align to the left, align to the center, align to the right, top, bottom, and align vertical centers. So I just want to center those up like that. Now, if you have multiple items selected and you're adjusting things, it's going to adjust all of them. Like I could change the color for all of them here, which is pretty cool. I like that. For now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to constrain the proportions. I'm going to make these icons a little bit bigger. Right now they're 20 by 20, which is too small. I'm going to choose 32 by 32. That's going to make them a little bit bigger. And when I drop them in there, there's going to be room for a little title underneath, right? Cool. We're not going to put those in yet because again, we're building from bottom to top. So I'm going to get my text. Now, how big do I want to type? You know, what's the answer? Do I want to type calendar? What do I want to do? I'm using SF Pro Text, right? Because we looked at that before, but I can go back to my typography tab, looking for small screen. What type of thing is this? This is a caption. So we're going to look at that. What color they have. Great. SF Pro Text, regular, 13 pixels. So I'm going to go right back over here, SF Pro Text, change that to regular, change this to 13 pixels. Oh, I didn't select any of that. Select all this, regular, 13 pixels. There, now we have a nice little title. I'm going to capitalize that. And then I'm going to bring my calendar right here, center those two up. And let's bring these right there. Now, for spacing, again, going back to that spacing thing we looked at before, I'm going to do this. I'm going to draw a rectangle. I'm going to make this a little darker so I can see it. And I'm just going to constrain those proportions and make the height 8 pixels. Well, undo. Yeah, grab this and move this to here. Line that up to the top of my text. If I hold command, it's going to let me move a little bit at a time. Let's go right to, well, that's going to have to be close enough. All right, so then we're going to move this to there, line that up. I can see that that is a little bit too far. So how's that look? That looks good. Cool. Now, the reason that we're doing all of this math stuff, when we're building visually as designers, we're building, build it, make it feel right. But when your programmers are creating things, they're not doing it by feel. They're not saying this should be here-ish. They're building things by the numbers. So it helps us as designers when we want our developers to build things that are similar to what we've created, to have everything done by the numbers. So I'm going to take this and group it. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take this to the edge, and then I'm going to shift nudge that in 16 pixels. So now when they build this component, they will be able to say, okay, that has a margin of 16 from the left side. Instead of it's here-ish, we'll know that it's 16 pixels and it's the same in both places, right? So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to create another text. Hit T for text, click right there, and Figma should save the same settings. So now I'm going to call these leads, Drop these in right there. And then bring this. See how this is 32 by 32 also, so it should line up perfectly. And I'm going to take these two, create a group. Oh, I held caps lock instead of shift, but if you shift click, create a group. Now I'm going to go back to the text tool, say favorites, and lining that up with leads. And we'll take our favorites and shift click, Command G for group, and then another text, and we'll call this statistics. And we'll drop this in there. Now you'll notice I didn't use the sizing square for all of these, just for the first one. That's because the bounding box of the frame that each one of these items are in is the same size. Whether the icon itself is the same size or not doesn't seem to matter because the frame is the same size. So each frame will line up with this first one. So we already did the spacing. So we don't have to do it again. Now I'm going to go here and name my layers, click on the group, Command R for rename. We'll call that calendar tab. Go here, rename leads tab. Click here, rename favorites tab. Now notice I'm saying leads tab, favorites tab, instead of favorites or leads, because the text ideally would say leads and favorites, or leads text and favorites text, just to make things easier to look at later down the road. Statistics tab, cool. And now we're going to make the contact button, and then I'll pause for questions and see if you guys have any questions. Holding O for oval and then shift. I'm going to make this darker so I can see it. And we'll make this 72. So that's at same base 4. Now we'll go back to the icons here. And let's start a conversation with our recruiter. And we're going to paste here. We're going to change this color. First, if you import that icon, it's going to be already part of what's the word I'm looking for, a component here. So we're going to detach this instance. That allows us to edit any of these parameters, which should be very helpful. So right now I'm just going to make those white. And I'm going to constrain the proportions. Now watch what happens if I don't constrain those proportions. If I just take this height and change it to say 40, it's going to be a little bigger than the other two. It only changes one dimension, right? So Command Z to undo. If I constrain those proportions and change this to 40, it changes both of them, the width and the height. And that just keeps it looking regular. Cool. Now I've got all of these. We've got calendar leads. I'm going to take this and group that. We'll call this the chat fab. Command R for rename, chat fab. Cool. And we're going to center this in the middle. Have this one is going to go all the way to that right edge. And then we're going to shift tab. And then we're going to line this one up. We're going to line this one up. And we've got our navigation down below. So I'm going to take all of this, Command G for group, and then Command R for rename. We'll call this tab nav. All right, pausing. Does anybody have any questions?
There's one question asking about pixel grid backgrounds.
Pixel grid backgrounds, they're helpful. Yeah. If you're going to do your pixel grid backgrounds, I would say you would add, where is my grid? I used to know this a second ago. Well, I'll show you guys how to find stuff really fast. So I'll go Figma grid, create layout grids, boom, 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 just to find where it is in the menu system. But yeah, they are helpful. They're absolutely helpful. You can use them to set those things. I personally, I like to do things by tabbing it over, but it is really helpful to set these grids. You can set grids inside of an object. You can set grids inside of your whole screen, and they'll help you line everything up really nicely. I definitely recommend doing that. And if you're interested in finding this page, I will drop it in the chat right now. It's at this link. Here you go. Read all about grids. Definitely very helpful. And it helps you keep everything arranged from page to page to page. Very helpful layout grid. It's in the design panel. So you would go to this whole thing and then add a layout grid. Now we got a 16 pixel grid. And yeah, so that's right there. You can see that 16 pixel. Let's move this. Yeah, so that's to the edge of the frame there, not to the edge of where the text is. And that's okay with me.
Cool. Another question. How did you determine your spacing between the tabs?
Between the tabs. Okay, so what I did is I created each group, right? And then did 16 pixels in from the edge for each one, and had this one centered. And then what I did is I centered each one of these other two tabs so that as I moved it, you saw some that little thing pop up, 20 and 20. So it's the same distance between these two. And it's the same distance between these two. It's 31 because this one's a little thinner because the text is different. But that just has the spacing the same all the way across. Another way to do that would be to select all of them and put them each in a frame that's the same width. And if you've got them all in the same width frame, you can select a bunch of things. Actually, it's easier to do that from here. So you can select a bunch of things like calendar tab 1, 2, 3, 4, and then go to this and distribute horizontal. There's another step there though. You can see there are different widths. So if you want to do that, it's totally fine to do that. Yeah, go for it. But you want to make sure that each grouping is the same width, because look what happens when I do this. They're all the same distance from each other, but because they're not the same width, it's uneven. So what I did is I had the two edges at the same spot and then one in the middle, and then put these two in between. And that's probably because I used to do animation and look at, you make the first frame, the last frame, the frame in the middle, and just have it over and over until it flows smooth. So that's in my brain. But yeah, so create the thing, make sure that the gutter on each side is the same, put this in the middle, and then center them up. That's how I did that. Any other questions?
Yeah, what are your thoughts on using auto layout?
Auto layout is amazing. You should use it. It's great. I didn't use it here because that's a whole lesson, and getting into auto layout can be really, really complicated, and it's amazing though. And I'm going to show you some of the things that it can do in a second. Yeah. Other questions?
I think one person wanted to see that nudge tool one more time.
Sure, I can do that. So the nudge tool, you go up to your Figma menu, drop it down, go to preferences, and then it's at the bottom of preferences, it says nudge amount. You can set that to anything you want. You can set that to 520 and 6,000 if you want. But I wouldn't unless I was making something really big. But no, I've got 4 and 16 for now because of the guidelines from Polaris. One more time, Figma menu, preferences, nudge amount. Cool. All right. Oh, sorry, you had a question?
No, I think we're done for now.
Cool. So now we're going to get into the components from Polaris. So there's a lot of really cool things that we can grab from here. We've got, buttons that we can look at for large screens, small screens. They've got their basic buttons, their primary buttons, outline buttons. And then in the design system documentation on the website, they'll talk about how to use them and when to use them. And they'll have those code snippets. So you could easily just say, I want the default small button, and they'll have a name for it. So you don't have to code what this looks like every time. That's one great thing about design systems, that they have made all these decisions already. We've got buttons, we've got cards, all kinds of stuff. I'm just showing you a few for the sake of time, but looking at this small screen, We've got the default cards. What we're going to want is an expand button, the name of the lead and the job type that it is, or the name of the company and the job type that it is. So we're going to take this card and we're just going to copy it. And again, paste it right over here. I'm going to get rid of this grid because it's in my way for now. But definitely recommend using grids. Super, super helpful. We're going to align this to the bottom. And now because this is all this all has auto layout in it, I can grab the edge here and just move it over. And everything stays lined up super nicely. So I'm going to take this and we're going to call experience designer. And we'll say expand. Now we can take this. The reason I didn't change this is because we're going to change it for all of them anyway. But if we take this copy, we're going to actually use duplicate, Command D for duplicate, holding Shift to make sure it's moving in a 90-degree plane. I could also move it sideways, but I'm just moving it until it lines up here. And now I can duplicate again and again and again and again, all the way up the page. Great. Now, the reason we dropped this off the page is because we're going to put that right back on there so that it floats over. All right. Now, in the chat, a little bit of interaction time. If you guys could start throwing out the name of some companies, we'll just drop them in here just for the sake of it. What are some companies you guys want to work for? Dropbox. Cool. Dropbox. I'm going to say UX Wizards. Discord I saw. HelloFresh. Cool. Food Space. Nice. HelloFresh. Ooh, Fender Guitars. Cool. Fender Guitars. Ableton. Digging it. Ableton, that'd be a fun job. Calendly, awesome. And two more. Calendly. DocuSign, nice, making our lives easier. DocuSign. I see a Walmart. I'll drop that in here and we'll call it a day. All right, thank you, everybody. Appreciate you. All right, so now we've got all of these job leads that have been sent to us. Super cool. See how fast that was? That took a couple of minutes, like no, super fast, right? So we spent all this time designing this on our own to make this. That's one thing that we can do. And then the other thing is dropping these in and we don't have to worry about how to space it. We don't have to think about like, what's the spacing going to be between each object? We don't have to think about where is it going to go in here so that it aligns with the design system that we've chosen to use, right? That's already decided. We just drop it in. And that exactly is the point of a design system. You can see just the amount of time saving that that does. So now we've got a whole list here. Awesome, super great. We're going to jump right back into the Polaris components. I'm going to scroll down to the bottom and grab a top bar. So top bar, small screens. I definitely encourage you to jump into this components list and explore it. There's some really cool stuff here. I'm going to grab this, Command copy, and I'm going to click in here, Command paste to put it at the top. I'm going to drop that here. Now I know that I want my system bar to be 24 pixels tall, so I'm going to go shift click 16, 20, 24. I'm going to expand this. Now auto layout is what's causing all of this stuff to change in a really uniform way. So thank you to whoever it was that brought that up for mentioning it, because it's definitely worth mentioning. Auto layout is super helpful. It's a great feature that Figma added. So highly recommend exploring that. And we might do a class on that at another point. So we're going to take R for rectangle. We're going to go to this top corner. Line that up. That's 29 pixels tall. I'm going to change that height to 24. And I'm going to align that to the top of the screen. And then I'm going to take this and bump it to the edge of there, which means I might have done my math a little bit wrong, which is okay. And I'm going to jump in here. And now we're going to learn a little bit of theory stuff. If you take 16 pixel square and then you take a 16 pixel circle. Which one of those looks bigger? That square looks bigger, right? It's not, they're the same width, the same height, but our brains are not linear objects. They perceive things in different ways. So I'm just going to bring this down a little bit, 15. So weird, right? They're different sizes, but they look closer now that they're like slightly different. I don't know. Psychology is weird. So we're going to create another one of these. Drop that in. Let's say that looks like 17 should be about right. 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0 is black. It's great. Looks like we might even need to go bigger. So we'll go to 18. That's better. 18 is better. Cool. And this is not perfect, and we don't need it to be because that's not the focus of our app. But you can definitely spend time finagling that to get it right. So for now, we're looking at this. This is starting to look like an app screen, right? We built this bottom nav bar because I already know that Shopify does not include a tab nav at the bottom. They have a different type of navigation system, but we're building as if we want to make an app that has these things, and then it's got these Shopify components. So now that it's in black and white here, we want to start adjusting those colors. In the middle here, we've got all the Shopify colors because it came as their components. I'm going to jump in here and just change that to me. So what colors do we want to choose, right? We could just choose random colors, but we could also go to the Shopify colors list and pick the colors that they've decided go with their design system. So we're going to do that. Right now, we're going to take this interactive color. We're going to click on this dot. We're just going to double click on the fill to copy and paste their hex code there. And we're going to make this interactive color. Boom. Right now we got a Shopify looking button. It's pretty sweet. And then I want to go back to colors and check the things that are on top of the icon. That icon is going to act like text in this instance, but it doesn't matter because we got icons here. So icons on /interactive. We're going to command click on that circle just to check what color it is. So that's pure white. And we're going to look at this. That's pure white. Cool. So that matches. Great. Now we're going to jump right back into colors here. And what do we have? We've got surfaces and backgrounds. So we've got backgrounds here. That's awesome. But we've got those backgrounds set here. So we don't really want to duplicate that color because, you know, if this surface is the same, I mean, if this background is the same as this background, where's the edge of it, right? So we're going to change this and think of that as a surface instead. Each design system has slightly different words for different things. But the thing that's the same from design system to design system is that in their documentation, they will explain how they do things. So here we've got surfaces, and that's like an object that's on a thing that has stuff in it. So very roughly paraphrasing, but we're going to grab this primary selected just because that's such a bad rationalization for it. But in this build, they don't have it specified for what their navigation is going to look like. And this can be our app colors, right? So if you have an app that already has some guidelines for what you're building, they will have colors. If you don't, then in your research, you're going to look at color psychology and different, you know, do some testing and figure out what colors fit. Think about the brand personality. How do you want to come across? So if I'm looking for colors, I'm looking at these surfaces, Command Z and drag to zoom to that area. We're not going to use a warning. We're not going to use a critical. Success could be good. We could use that. Although if you have anything that says, oh, hey, you are being successful, Bing, that's fantastic. You might not want those to conflict. So maybe you want a slightly different color. Surface highlight, we're not necessarily highlighting these. So no, neutral could work, but I want a color instead of a gray. So process of elimination, surface primary selected. We might adjust these a little bit so that when we hover, it goes here, when we press it, it's here. Since it's this kind of tab nav system, we're not going to highlight the area of the button, although you could do that. You could have a neutral, and then when you click on something, the area turns green, and that could be cool too. For now, we're making a different choice, but we're going to take this rectangle, we're going to fill that, make that nice light green. We're going to do the same thing up here. We're going to fill that, boom, boom, boom. And now the icons, we're going to look at color, zoom out a little bit, looking at icons. See for zoom, icons default. We're going to take that color and copy, and coming over here, select, shift double click to get into that group. And it's already that color. It's already that color because we copied those icons in from their icons page, and they made them their Shopify colors already. You're seeing how using the components and different things from their design system is saving us time, right? We didn't have to go figure out what color that was. They already made it that color, which is awesome of them. I'm gonna zoom in here to make that easier. And we're going to take these colors, paste it, boom. Now they're all the same color. All right. So now we're looking at this page here, and it's 6:58. So we started at 6:05, and we talked through some concepts. We looked at design systems versus style guides. We created our physical sketch. We created a wireframe, and then we created an entire app screen in the span of an hour. So you can see how much faster it is to build with design system components. We didn't have to design any of these icons. They already exist. Somebody at Shopify created those icons. And now any person that uses Shopify has the same icons, so that people who are using, who are using e-commerce products across the web, if they see this calendar button, they know what it does. If they see, messaging button, they know that's messaging. So it's a really helpful way to do that. And we didn't have to spend the time designing those. They already exist. We didn't have to choose what text size to use. It's already decided. We didn't have to create the auto layout for this. It's already been set. We just copy and paste it in. One thing that we didn't use today was libraries. Libraries are really, really helpful, component libraries. If you pay for Figma, you get to access the libraries feature. I didn't use that today because I wanted you to not have a cost barrier to get in. So copy and paste is a tool that helps you use that. But if you're working at a company that's having you use their design system, like maybe they're using Shopify's, or maybe they've got their own in-house design system. If you're working for them, they should give you access to their libraries, and then you can copy and paste. It works a similar way. And you can adjust things from there, and that will change the components across your entire system if you set it as a library. So somebody says, hey, we want to change all these icons to a nice shiny blue. They can change it in the component side in the library that you're referencing, and that will change it across your whole app. And you don't have to go and do it on every screen. If you got 100 screens per product and you've got 6 different products, you don't have to go in and 5 icons per screen. You don't have to go in and change all that stuff. It just does it automatically, which is a time saver. One thing we want to look at here, this is selected. So we're going to go into colors. We're going to look at icons, interactive. Let's find focused. We're going to use this border highlight. And again, I'm showing you guys that it's okay to change things a little bit. I wouldn't recommend completely going off the rails, as long as you can articulate the reasons that you're doing things. The reason I'm doing this here is because the interactive color, we already have a blue. So if I go to a selected blue, that would be clashing with this chat button that's already showing up. So I'm going to grab this border highlight color, which we aren't using anywhere else, but it is a highlighted color, and we're going to detach that instance. I'm going to change that color. And now we're on this page. Boom. Completed. So before we wrap up, does anybody have any questions about everything we've done so far today?
Looks like there's a question about maybe something being proprietary.
Sure. Don't steal components from people. If you're looking at, especially if you're selling anything across the web, you need to make sure that you have the licenses to use things. If you are, going out and finding icons somewhere and using them, then some icon sets are free. Some icon sets require a certain kind of license. So you want to protect your business ventures from any kind of legal action, and you want to protect your the kind of the people that created the things. They put a lot of resources into building those, which is awesome. And they want to protect their assets too, because we do live in a society that values money. So they want to protect their assets. A lot of places will let you use things for free. But I would say that if you are creating an e-commerce website and you want to use these Shopify components, make sure that you check before you go ahead and use those, that you can use those in your sales experience. I'm showing you how to build with a design system. All those things that we just grabbed were for free from them. And we're using them to show learning how to build this. I'm not selling this course, so I'm worried about it much less. But we're showing how to use the thing. You can substitute any design system component, any design system, and use different components from different places. And there it is. Yeah, thank you, Sean, putting that in the thing, and it tells you what your legal license is. So always check. There are lots of icon sets out there. Some of the ones that I like, I've loaded into my plugins. You can put a lot of different plugins here. I like different icon sets. But if I'm building, if my manager says, go build we're building a Shopify page, we are using the Shopify platform, we want it to feel cohesive, this is how you would go in and build with that. So yeah, that's a good note. Thanks for bringing that up, Sarah. Figma plugin recommendations. Yes. One that I definitely recommend, let's get this chat window moved over to here. Find and focus is really, really helpful. That allows you to search inside of your document. So if I know it's on a page somewhere and I'm looking for Discord, well, I didn't name my layers, but it's going to search your layers here. And it's going to help you find in, so let's say I'm looking for calendar tab. I know it's somewhere. That will help you search and find that. So find/focus, definitely recommend it. It's free, use it. I got material design icons. I got feather icons, which I like. Unsplash is really helpful. That will let you drop pictures into things, and they've already figured out all their licensing stuff, which is great. There's all kinds of different things. Able is a really good one for checking accessibility and color contrast. So if I don't want to go on forever, but yeah, Able, I'd say get that for sure. Get Unsplash if it isn't already installed, use that. And what was the other one I said? Find and focus. That will help a lot. Yeah, I'll type those down. Find/focus, Able, and Unsplash. And there are other photo ones. I like this one because it's easy. Does everybody know how to get plugins in Figma? Because Figma is really, really heavy on plugin use. Very, very, very helpful. Do you guys know how to get to that? Sure, yeah. So you're gonna go over to here in that Figma menu tab, go to plugins, and then you can go to browse plugins in community. There are so many plugins. there's so many of them, and they have them for all kinds of different things. UI kits, illustrations, wireframes, all kinds of stuff. You can Unsplash is the first one that comes up because so many people use it. But yeah, if you're designing with material, grab this material design icon is really helpful. Remove background, that's a great idea. You can create unique blobs. A11Y, cool. I haven't used that one, but testing for accessibility is really important and really helpful. Does Balsamic have a plugin? I don't know, but that's a good idea to find out. All right, I'll show you how to install a plugin. Let's find one that I want that I don't have yet. Icons 8, cool. Let's go here, and you literally scroll across to see this install button. There, boom, installed. It's done. It's that easy. It's so simple. And so now I can go here, right? I can go into Figma just to show you that it's already there. I can open up, let's open up my job search thing that we looked at for this whole flow. Now I can go here into my plugins, and here's my icons 8 icons. It's already there. It opens up this little window, and you can grab your icons. Oh my God, this is amazing. It's got material and iOS and Office. This is great. I'm glad I found this. This is fantastic. And you can set your sizing. That's a super cool plugin. Cool. Any other questions? All right. Well, I just want to say thank you, everybody, for coming to this event. We looked at all kinds of stuff. We built a screen together. We talked about how to install fonts. We talked about how to get design system stuff into your stuff, how to get design system components into your Figma files. You can use a similar process like this for any design software that you're using. I like Figma because it's super collaborative and it's easy to access from online. I don't have to be on my computer to use it. So I like Figma for a lot of reasons. We talked about building from the bottom of your screen towards the top of your screen just to keep your layers organized. We talked about the importance of organizing your layers. I'm not going to go back and do that on this screen right now, but the very next step that I would do after building this stuff would be to go and name everything, right? Because what if my manager says, all right, let's grab these two and swap them? Like, I could do that, but then I would want to make sure that my layers list stays consistent. And right now, how do I know if that layers list is consistent with the world, right? It just says card. Win. That's great. But card is less helpful because, you want to make sure that it's named so you can access your items easily. So yeah, we talked about layer naming. We talked about building from the bottom up. We talked about importing your design components, and we built something together. We built wireframes. We started from a sketch, and we built this screen here, and we did all that in under an hour. So that just goes to show how much faster using design systems can help you be.